My name is Garreth Stockdale. I'm Head of Operations for BBC Learning. I know this because it says it in big letters up there. Thanks very much for inviting myself and Philip to talk here today. It's a great honour to be here, to see the passion for coding and for teaching coding to kids. And we feel a little bit like Madonna with this mic on. So if we've got time at the end, I will do a medley of the greatest hits, just to keep people entertained. As I said, I'm from BBC Learning. BBC Learning was the department that led the BBC Microbit project, which is probably the most ambitious education project that the BBC has done, probably ever. You might have heard of the BBC. We are the oldest public service broadcaster in the world. Hence, I've found a picture of the oldest camera with BBC written on it to symbolise that. We have been going since 1922, and we are very well used in the UK. We reach 97% of the population on a weekly basis. We are trusted around the globe for our objectivity and for our news coverage and our drama and our factual programming. But why did the BBC endeavour to put 1 million BBC microbits into schools in the UK? Well, we have our overarching principles which were put in place by Lord Reith when the BBC was founded in 1922. That the BBC was there and exists to inform, to educate, and also to entertain. So this project was very much within those Reithian principles. We've been doing radio programmes for schools from almost the moment the BBC started broadcasting. We've been doing schools programming on television since around about 1957. So education is a big part of what the BBC does. And BBC Learning is the department that I work for, which leads the education strategy for the BBC. Our mission, which you can't really see there, is to transform lives through education. And that leads everything that we do. We do a number of things to help education in the UK. We run something called BBC Bite Size, which is an online formal education tool. We reach around about 80% of all secondary school kids on a termly basis, and around 70% of all primary school kids use it. We also very much in the sort of tradition of schools radio and schools TV. We do BBC Teach and live lessons, which is using the best of BBC talent to produce resources for teachers. It's the same as BBC Radio, schools radio that we used to do in schools TV, but it's just online now. And then we do educational themes. So we do campaigns around educational themes. And those themes are generally based around STEM, literacy, and creativity. So this year, for example, we're doing a big campaign around literacy. We're working with BBC Comedy, so doing a campaign for 11 to 14-year-old children, for them to write comedy scripts and do jokes and using BBC talent, which has been really successful. We're launching a big science campaign in about a month's time, fingers crossed, if we can get everything aligned, which will promote hands-on science learning for primary school kids, and creativity. So we do something called 10 Pieces, which is about getting children to respond to classical music. Every year we do 10 pieces of classical music, and then we invite creative responses through art, dance, creative writing, and the best submissions take part in the BBC proms, where we have a 10 pieces prom. And it's very much within that creativity that the BBC Microbit stemmed from. We talk about digital strategy, we talk about digital content, we talk about digital education. But I think we're getting to the point in BBC Learning where that is just strategy, that is just content, that is just education. And what we were trying to do with the BBC Microbit was to get people creative with technology. We weren't teaching them how to code, We were giving them tools and technology to allow them to follow their passions, whether that be in maths, science, art, music. So, it's part of our mission, it's part of our strategy, and the other reason why the BBC got involved was there was a societal need. We realised that, as you can see from this slide, on the left-hand side is the problem. 60% of people in the UK think that coding is vital, but there's a huge skills gap. By 2020 in the UK, we'll need to fill another 1 million additional tech jobs. And the problem is that the numbers taking ICT and computing in school and at university is falling year on year. And in 2013, it was at its lowest level. It dropped to a level that was below 15 years before. We also know, as the slide shows, only 10% of adults know how to code, and 83% of girls and 67% of boys are leaving school with no coding knowledge. In 2011, there were 2 influential reports in the UK, one from the Royal Society and one from Nesta, which really highlighted this issue. And our innovation team within BBC Learning started thinking about what we could do with it. So our innovations editor, a guy called Howard Baker, and our innovations producer, a lady called Jo Classens, started thinking about it. We also had previous, 30 years ago as the BBC, we'd launched the BBC Micro, and this has had a huge legacy effect in the UK. Not only was there an element of nostalgia to all the people involved in the project, who, took their first steps with the computer, with the BBC Micro. The BBC Micro also had a big legacy. It's arguably responsible for the UK gaming industry, which is worth billions to the UK economy each year. And it's also led to a number of entrepreneurs that stemmed from the BBC Micro project and a number of companies. Probably most notably Arm, who were formed out of Acorn, who built the original BBC Micro. So, Howard and Jo, who've already mentioned, then started looking at different options. And they built a coding platform, they experimented with robots and machines. But where their conclusions came to was that the way to get children interested in coding was to anchor that coding in the real world. So for there to be an element of physicality to it, but also that it was technology that could be used to solve real world problems. It wasn't about teaching kids that coding was important, it was about teaching kids that coding could solve problems that was important to them. And I think that's an important distinction. We work with our BBC research and development colleagues and a guy called Michael Sparks, which you can see his email address there. Please don't email him. And we built some prototypes. As you can see, the development from the first iteration to the second to our original blue prototype. We took that prototype out to schools and to events. We took them to events, and there would be lots of activities for kids to do, but wherever we took the microbit, there was always a queue around the tent. So much so that we took it to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and there were almost fights breaking out in the queue. I don't know whether that was because it was Glasgow, but we were very encouraged by that. Not the fighting, but the enthusiasm. We took it into schools, as I said, we took it into year 5s, which are 9 to 10-year-olds, and year 7s, which is 11 to 12-year-olds. And we let them have them for 3 months to see what they did with them. And we were amazed. They were really enthusiastic. They took them home, used them at weekends. We had people logging on at midnight on a Saturday night. We were hoping that was the parents, but we didn't know. We had one girl who used her prototype microbit to write a speech for her sister's wedding. So she had the words coming up for her speech and assisted spelling. It was just things like that which really sort of encouraged us. So, getting back to why the BBC did this. So we've got that it's part of the BBC mission. We've got that it's part of the BBC Learning Strategy. The BBC has a history in this, and there's an urgent societal need that needs to be filled. We've built a prototype, but we still had a couple of other things to happen to really sort of give it momentum. One of those was the new computing curriculum that was introduced in the UK. So everybody then realised, especially teachers, that they needed some support to be able to teach that curriculum. And our Director General, Tony Hall, who's there, he launched something called the Make It Digital programme, which was about the BBC trying to get people creative with coding. And on March the 12th, 2015, he launched the Make It Digital programme, and just at the end, he pulled out of his pocket a little blue microbit and said, "We're going to deliver 1 million of these devices to all 11 and 12-year-olds in the country." Then we had to do it. So we went about, we knew we couldn't do it on our own. The BBC makes brilliant programmes, there's educational resources. We don't build hardware. So we put together a partnership of over 30 partners. What we wanted to do was to make this a real collaborative process. So we built a prototype and then we wanted to take it further. So we worked really well with those partners and from lots of different backgrounds. You had people like Technology Will Save Us, who are a sort of edtech startup, through to Microsoft, who we all know and love. And you know, it worked really well. You know, we have our favourite partners. Nordic were brilliant, and I'm not saying that because they've asked me to be here today. They were really, really good. And I think what struck me was the passion that all of those partners brought to it. And I think we had a dinner last night with some of the people running the festival, and I think what came across in that dinner again was that passion of people to try and get things done. I'm not saying that running a partnership of over 30 partners was easy, and there were some points at which we'd only had 3 partners, but it worked and added a lot to the project. So, we finally got sign-off from our lawyers that we were allowed to do it. We had the partners on board. We'd already said that we were going to make 1 million. And why were we doing that? Our mission for the project was to inspire a generation to get creative with coding. And we had sort of 4 main objectives that we were trying to do. We wanted to create an entry-level device, and that meant entry-level in terms of cost, but also sort of these overhead for people to get engaged and use it. They needed to be able to use it quickly and easily. We wanted to stimulate the market. We wanted the BBC Microbit to be one of a number of devices that people could use. And I think, that meant building an ecosystem around the BBC Microbit, but also encouraging other new entrants. Probably most importantly, we wanted a wider participation. We didn't want the BBC Microbit to be something that spoke to those already interested in technology. We wanted it to be wider than that. We wanted more girls to take up coding. You've seen the figures, there was a real problem. And we wanted to have ongoing impact. We were going to deliver 1 million, but what happened after that? And this is what we created. And I think you've all got one in your bags, which is great. The BBC Microbit. Pocket-sized, fun, and allowing children and adults alike to take a journey through coding. You start with the 5x5 LED matrix, which allows you to write your name. You can do something within 2 minutes. Hello world. Sometimes when it's 11 and 12-year-olds, there's a little bit of swearing, but at least they're being creative. And that's what we wanted. We wanted there to be no barriers. You could do something on a screen and then have something physical in your hand within 2 minutes. Tick, we managed to do that. It's also got an accelerometer, a compass, a thermometer. You can use the LEDs to measure light, and that brought about, again, at the basic form, we did Magic 8 Ball, so you shake the microbit, do I want to go to the pub tonight? Shake, yes. Shake, no. Shake, maybe. And then we added pins and an edge connector, so then you could add sensors. ARM did an early one where they put a moisture sensor into a plant pot, and when the plant pot was dry, microbit did a sad face, and when you watered it, it did a happy face. So, again, practical things in real-world perspectives. And we also added the Nordic Bluetooth chip, which again opened up a whole range of possibilities around IoT and connected devices. And really for 11 and 12-year-olds, what we thought was brilliant was it allowed them to link it to the thing that they love the most, their mobiles. And, you can code the microbit from your mobile, but you can also control your mobile from your microbit. So things like shaking the microbit to make your music louder, taking a selfie with the microbit, again, trying to work in with the things that they're passionate about, the things that they want to do. It's also worth saying that the project wasn't just about hardware. The hardware was, a focal point, but it wasn't the whole point. We wanted to create things that resonated with that audience of 11 and 12-year-olds. So as well as the hardware, we built 2 apps, a website. We had 4 code editors, from a basic block editor up to Python, and over 250 resources. And what we tried to do as the BBC is use talent and those interests to really get people engaged. So from using a band called the Vamps, I don't know if you're aware of them, they're very popular with especially girls in the UK who are pre-teen. We got them to deliver microbits into schools. We did a music festival where you could code your microbit, attach it to a speaker, and you could play, Little Mix's Black Magic. I know you all know it. And we also linked it to sport. We had the returning Olympians from Rio doing things like coding the microbit to be a step counter, so when you're doing your workout, you know how many steps you've taken. And I think the other key thing that we did is we gave the microbits to the children themselves. We didn't give them to the teachers, we didn't give them to the schools. We wanted to promote ownership. We thought through promoting that ownership and allowing them to take it home, we would get them to do more outside the curriculum. And that's proving to be the case. It was also really, really important to support teachers. So not only were we working with teachers to distribute the microbit, so we would send them to the schools and they would do an initial lesson and then hand them out. We also did a series of roadshows through an organisation called CAS, which is the Computing at Schools Network, for master computing teachers across the UK. So we did around 30 events around the UK, got them hands-on with the microbit 6 months before we shipped them out to kids. We also sent 15,000 microbits out to all of the registered computing teachers 6 weeks before the children got them. So we worked really, really hard at working with them. We also did, as I said, over 250 resources, the majority of them curriculum linked, so that teachers could use them in their lessons and use them to teach the national curriculum. So on March the 22nd this year, we started distribution, and it was a momentous day and lots of fun. It had been a long, hard slog to get to that point. And the reaction we got was brilliant. These are a few little excerpts from social media on the day, but we were trending, which is great. But what was great was after all that hard work, the enthusiasm that came through from the kids was brilliant. We had so many unboxing videos. I didn't know unboxing was such a big thing, but we had thousands of unboxing videos, which is great. So how have we got on? What have we done? We've now got 1 million devices out there in the UK, in schools, in code clubs, and partner organisations. And since our launch in March this year, we've had 13 million visits to the Microbit website. On the Microbit website there's a simulator, so you do your code and then you have a little simulator that shows you what it's going to look like. We've had 10 million simulator runs. And we've had 2 million compilers. So when you've written your code, you compile it, it goes down onto your Microbit. We've had 2 million compiles. We're really happy with those numbers. But this is just the start. We've just done our first wave of research with a company called Discovery Research. And we're really sort of encouraged by it. You know, as I said, it's early days, but we're starting to see some real behavioural change. 39% of girls who had used the Microbit said they would definitely choose ICT or computing as an option. That's up from 23% before they had a Microbit, which I think in 3 months is really good. For boys and girls, 75% said they either loved or liked the Microbit. 86% said that it made computer science more interesting. And 88% said that it made it easier than they previously thought it could be. And that was all the things that we wanted to do. In the immersion sessions that we did it in 12 schools with over 300 kids around the UK. The teachers also reported back that it had some soft benefits as well. It helped teamwork, it helped attention to detail, and it helps problem solving. So again, taking it outside of it being about teaching coding to teaching creativity. So what does the future look like? Now, looking back at the goals that we started the project with, how have we got on? There is an ecosystem that's springing up around the Microbit. You know, we've got many suppliers of kits and sensors and other things you can use. We've got a number of copies of Microbits in Japan and in other places that are already out there. We've got derivatives of Microbit. There's one in Germany that's just been launched. So have we stimulated the market? I think we have, or we're beginning to. We set about creating an entry-level device and system that people could get involved with. All our research points to the fact that we've managed to achieve that. We wanted to widen participation. And again, it's early doors. We're only just really sort of starting this campaign. But the initial research shows that we're beginning to do that. And then the other thing that we wanted to do was ensure that there was a legacy, that what we've started continued. And we always said the best way to do that would be to set up a not-for-profit organisation that would be able to do that. And that's what we did on Tuesday this week. We launched the Microbit Educational Foundation. It's a not-for-profit organisation that's independent, but formed by some of the major partners that were involved in the original. And its role is to continue the work in the UK, but also to take the Microbit and make it available globally. So if you're a child from Rotherham or Reykjavik, from York to New York, you can get creative with coding. And I think that's where we are. I think we've done a lot. There's a lot left to do, and I'll hand you over to Philip now, who's going to talk about that future. Philip was the programme manager for the original BBC project. He's now working at the foundation, which is brilliant, and he can tell you the ambitious plans that the foundation has. Thank you.